next year's president of Students Confronting Apartheid by Israel, or SCI as we like to call it. Started approximately 4 years ago. SCI focuses on divestment and education related to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. And we'll be passing around a mailing list if you're interested in getting involved in any way. We have 2 lists, our officers list, which is higher traffic, and then announcements, which is events only. And I now have the honor of introducing to you Ali Abunimah. Originally of Palestinian descent, he was born in the United States and grew up in Europe. He received his BA from Princeton and MA from the University of Chicago. Mr. Abunimah co-founded the Electronic Jakarta, an internet gateway about Palestine and the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, as well as the Electronic Iraq and Electronic Lebanon. A prominent writer and commentator on Middle Eastern and Arab American affairs, his articles have appeared in many prominent newspapers. He actually asked me not to list them, so we'll move on. He is also a frequent guest on local, national, and international radio and television, including public radio and television, CNN, MSNBC, Fox, the BBC, and I'm going to move on. So, he is perhaps best known for his book, One Country, A Bold Proposal to End the Israel-Palestine Impasse, and his frequent blog posts. He has emerged as what I believe to be a unique voice among the chorus of commentators that analyze the region. And SCI has invited him here tonight because we hope to open a dialogue on campus around the peace talks and the Palestinian-Israeli conflict that goes beyond what we tend to hear in the mainstream media. So we hope to challenge you to think critically, and we hope in turn that you will also challenge us. Mr. Abunimah will speak for approximately an hour, and then we will open it up to questions. So with that, probably a bit less. All right. So with that, please join me in welcoming Ali Abunimah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jenna. And I'd like to start by drinking some water. And to start by thanking SCI, Students Confronting Israeli Apartheid, for inviting me here, and for all the individuals who put the effort into arranging this event and organizing it. And the effort is 2 kinds of effort, really. It's a logistical effort and an effort of time, when I know that students have tremendously busy schedules and lives. And it's also an effort because it's a decision to bring to this campus a discussion that in many respects in the United States is a taboo. To have an open discussion about Palestine, to have an open discussion about Israeli apartheid is not easy. There are sometimes efforts to cast that discussion in a different light, and I think it's terribly important to have an open discussion. I think it's fitting that the group inviting me is Students Confronting Israeli Apartheid. It's a name, but it's also a sentence. It describes exactly what they're doing and what I think we all need to do, because apartheid is the situation today in Palestine. And I want to talk about the 3-tiered system of apartheid that exists, and I want to talk about what we can and must do about it to bring an end to a tragic situation. I was here at Stanford just about 4 years ago, in 2006, and at that time I think the conversation was very different in this country and generally about Palestine-Israel. I wrote a book called One Country. I don't have any copies of it here tonight, that argues that really the notion of 2 states in Palestine, Israel is an illusion, and that it's really the effort to divide and segregate people that has fueled bloodshed and violence and conflict, and will continue to do so as long as that remains the paradigm. At that time, that idea was very marginal, and people said, well, you're crazy to even talk about this. It wasn't my idea. It was an old idea that had existed for some time, but I felt that it was time to bring this idea back to the forefront. It was very contentious even to use the term apartheid to describe the situation in Palestine. People would say, well, that's very hurtful, and that's very inaccurate, and it's a slander, and it means you're anti-Semitic if you use words like that to describe what Israel is doing to the Palestinians. How things have changed in the space of 4 years. First of all, there is now a broad realization, something that I predicted would happen 4 years ago, that the so-called two-state solution is probably the most unlikely outcome, and that there is really no path to get to it. The so-called peace talks that have been sponsored by the United States are a complete joke. I don't think there is a single human being who seriously thinks that this is going to result in the what's advertised on the box, two states living side by side in peace. The idea that that's going to happen, I think, is really a joke. I don't think that there's a single Israeli who genuinely believes it. If there is, I would like to meet them, but I haven't yet. I don't think there's any Palestinians who believe it either. And logic doesn't show a path from where we are today to this mythical two states living side by side in peace. And so we hear more and more discussion of a reality of a single state, but an apartheid state, and that the struggle is being transformed into one of providing equal rights for all who live in it. And the discussion of apartheid is no longer one that is reserved for people like me who are easily vilified. He's a Palestinian. He believes in creeping Sharia. This is the slogan now. If you have any Arab origin or Muslim background, or your middle name is Hussein, mine is Hassan for full disclosure, my father's name, then you're a secret Muslim, or you're the crazy talk that goes on in this country. They really turned up the crazy in this country recently. Boy, is it crazy in here. It's no longer people like me who are so vilified by defenders of the apartheid in Israel. It's Israelis themselves who talk about this. And a case in point was an op-ed that appeared in Haaretz on just a couple of days ago, on October 31st, by one of their well-known columnists, Zvi Bar-El, and he writes in an article entitled "South Africa is Here," and he talks about the various laws that are being passed in Israel that are so similar to the kinds of laws that existed in apartheid South Africa. And he says, Israel's apartheid movement is coming out of the woodwork and is taking on a formal legal shape. It is moving from voluntary apartheid, which hides its ugliness through justifications of cultural differences and historic neglect, which only requires a little more funding and a couple of sewage pipes, to a purposeful, open, obligatory apartheid, which no longer requires any justification. And he says, and I'll quote this at length because I think it's just so sharp, and again, the sort of thing that we were saying 4 years ago when, this was considered crazy talk. He says, in South Africa of the 1950s, the whites were afraid even of the white immigrants, lest they bring with them liberal ideas that would affect the local folk. but mostly they feared the blacks. In a short period of time, the insular white community adopted a series of laws that were meant to preserve